It's time for the first GarageBand Weekly show of 2021. Should we do it? Let's do it.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Oh, yeah. It is that time of the week at GarageBand Weekly here on Studio Live today. I hope you are doing well and welcome to 2020. My name is Pete Johns. This is Studio Live today. If for some reason you've stumbled across the channel in the last week between 2021 and 2022, hello, welcome. This channel, my goal here, and I don't say it very often anymore, but my goal here is to help you create, record, and release your best music. And one of the platforms we use is GarageBand, both on iOS and on the Mac. So today we'll be talking about the future of GarageBand. What is GarageBand going to look like in 2022 and beyond? And again, if you're very new to GarageBand, if you jump over here, studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. This is my GarageBand FAQ, and today's show will be brought to you by the GarageBand FAQ, because if you want to find all the things you need to know about GarageBand on your iPhone or iPad, this is your one-stop shop. You can kickstart your learning there with the course for just $10, or you've got all of the free resources here, all of the essential videos, and a Q&A here. All of the frequently asked questions I get asked about GarageBand iOS. So before you reach out, and look, I love it when folks reach out to me and ask questions, but this probably has the answer, because this is 6 years worth of information that I've been gathering over that time. So if you're looking for information about GarageBand, go to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand, my GarageBand FAQ. We'll jump into the news and notes, and then we'll talk to a few of the folks who are here live, and then we'll crack onto it. And yes, thank you there, Thomas Christ. We've got the beginner's course there. If you want to go to straight to that one, studiolivetoday.com/courses is the place to go. So number one in the news and notes, well, because it's been the Christmas, New Year, holiday, December win extravaganza week, there really isn't any news. But no news is good news, maybe? Yeah. But all I wanted to say is, for the first thing off the bat here, is welcome to 2022. And I hope you have aspirations and goals to make more music in 2022, because I certainly do. 2021 was a weird year in that I did a lot of stuff here on the channel, but we actually I'll have to check in on it, but I think we only completed 3 songs for the whole year, which is not enough. We need more songs, more asbestos and more songs. So yeah, my goal for 2022 is more songs. And in fact, I'll tell you a little bit later about what my goal for the month, for the year is. In fact, I'll tell you right now, because it's the second news and notes option here. And that is that because I like to bite off more than I can chew, what I've just decided is that this year in 2022, I am going to create 12 songs. So I'm going to focus on doing at least one song every month. Now, when I say one song, some of them are going to be long and involved and in depth. Some may be quicker and shorter and done in a day or a couple of days. But I want to make sure that by the end of this year, instead of looking back and going, I've only got 3 songs, I want to have 12 songs. So that's my goal for 2022. And look, whether you like to set goals or not is entirely up to you. I was talking about this with other folks. Some people really dig on the whole, setting it down, writing it out, having the goal, and then trying to get towards it. And other people don't. And the second part of that is, I'm not going to beat myself up. If I get to the end of the year and I've done 8 songs, guess what? That's 8 more than 0. So sometimes setting the bar a little bit higher can mean that even if you don't quite make it there, then you've still kind of done something pretty cool. So we are kicking things off in January, because it is January. It's the 3rd of January here. It'll be the 2nd for folks in some places. But we're kicking off in January with some hard rock. So I'm going back to my roots. So what we'll be doing in January is we'll be creating and recording and releasing a rock song, and more specifically, a bit of a grunge, hard rock, almost metal. I don't want to say metal because that'll get the metalheads too excited, but it'll be the sort of music that I produced. It's a bit of a homage to what I was producing sort of when I first started, which is more than 25 years ago. A lot of these bands are bringing out their 25th anniversary releases of their albums and things that they created in 1996. So what I want to do is return to that. So it's going to be that old school 3-piece, 4-piece grungy rock band kind of vibe for a couple of reasons. Number one, it'll be great to get back to basics and just be recording in guitar, bass, drums, vocals, and just pretending it's like the old days and we're recording on like an 8-track or something. And secondly, because it's just rockin' music and it's what I dig. And for all of 2021, all of the music I was producing was a little bit more low key. We did Murdering Time, we did Time McFly's kind of a synthy song, and then we finished off with Work in Progress, which was a little more rocky, but wasn't quite up there with the rock. So there you go. That is what we're doing. Jade Star's grabbing her drumsticks. Do you reckon we should get Jade? Let's show of hands who thinks Jade should play drums on my grunge rock track in January. Should she choose to accept the challenge? I think that would be kind of epic. So that's what we'll be working on, and that's what the month will look like here in January, and then we'll continue on for the rest of the year. And I may even be able to have to jump back into the Song Spark group, because if you're not familiar with the Song Spark group on Facebook, they are a bunch of very cool people. John and Jason and all the crew over there, they run a group where every month there's a spark. And I haven't actually checked. Maybe we'll need to check later on in the show what the spark is for the month of January, and we'll check in on that over on Facebook, because it would be good if I use some of those for that. There you go. We've got a lot of people that think that Jay should be drumming on the track. There you go. We'll do that. All right. So that's the news and notes. Like I say, there wasn't a whole lot in the way of news and notes because it's the start of the year. There's not a lot going on, and all we need to know is how much music we're going to produce. So let me know. What are your goals? If you have any goals, before we jump into our next section, let me know. You got any goals for the new year? I would love to hear from you about that. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit here. We're going to go into our feature topic in just a moment. So yeah, while you let me know if you've got any musical goals for 2022, we'll jump into the rant of the week, because I've been thinking about how I approach this year. And look, it's not that not the 1st of January is some magic thing, but it does give you an opportunity to kind of take stock, take note, and work out what your plans are for the next year. And for me, I'll talk in the sort of rant section. I talk a lot more about the psychological side and the motivational side of music creation. And what I've found out, what I've discovered from doing all of the Your Music live shows in 2021, from doing this show, from creating my own music, from being involved in different communities, is my 2021 philosophy was you do you. So as long as you are not hurting anyone else, then you go your hardest. And I think I've kind of reached a you do you version 2 now, which is what I'm calling it, because I like things that rhyme, because that's what we do when we're songwriters, we rhyme things. So you do you version 2 is going to be all about accepting. It kind of comes down to that whole tolerance versus acceptance thing. It's like before I was like, oh yeah, I'll tolerate that because it's good. Now I want to actually just be accepting of people and what they do. So I've been critical in the past. You know, I've joked around about people. Here's a weird thing. I've joked around about people and said, wow, man, play my fire beat. Fire, 100, 100, 100. And all the kids with their trap music. And then in the last week, I was chatting to a bunch of people, and I came across this artist called Bad Bunny, which I know a lot of people will know about, a lot of you won't know about. It depends how many children you have and what age they are, basically. But Bad Bunny is like a trap artist out of, gonna get it wrong, but he's like Spanish speaking. And apparently, like, because I was like, oh, isn't K-pop the big thing? And apparently no. BTS and K-pop are like so 2019, and it's all about Bad Bunny now, if you're in the scene, if you understand things. So in the past, I would be like, and I started getting on my old man rant, yelling at clouds thing. And then I thought, you know what? As long as they're not hurting anyone, and if people are digging what they're doing and they're finding their audience, 1.2 billion people can't actually be that wrong. Or can they be? I don't know. But it's a bit like reality TV. I've for years, I've been railing against reality TV. You know what? People watch it. So if someone's going to produce it, if that's what they like and that's what they want to do, and they can sleep at night knowing that that's what they've done, that's what they've put into the world, then more power to them. So yeah, I've decided that I'm not wasting any more energy. I'm not spending any more time worrying about what other people are doing and what they should and shouldn't be doing. I'm just going to get on with it and do what I want. And that's the way we're going to be in 2022. How long will it last? How will we go? Well, that only time will tell. G'day to the folks who are here live. Hello to Tremor Bear. Hello to Mark Bro. Hello Thomas Christ, who said g'day to SM Borthwick is here. Mr. Gary Hubbs. I made a goal in 2021 and fell short. Wanted a 8-song LP. Got 5 done, but collabed like a trollop. Yeah, nice one. Thomas Christ says, I'd say one song every 2 weeks for me. Well, yeah, Thomas Christ is definitely a bit more prolific than us mere mortals there. Asa says, hello everyone. I found out about a huge new thing in GB that will help blind people a lot. Sweet. Nice one. Wi-Fi loves the shirt. Yeah, I'm channeling because the sort of music I want to produce, I've been listening to the Smashing Pumpkins, this one, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, the album. And this is the sort of music I want to create. I want to create that, that sort of rock music where there's like clean guitars, like doing low down things, and then you kick in your Boss DS1 and you play really loud distorted power chords. Yeah, that's the sort of music I want to create. So I'm like, I'm gonna channel Billy Corgan and wear my Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt here today. Hello, Steve, Richie. Hello to you. Hope you are doing well. Rob B, official. Young Sean, I have a few good tracks I made. Excellent. Old Goat Songwriting 2022 is going to be a good year. Bring it on, I say. Bring it on. We don't have any choice. People are like, oh, no, 2021, I blame the year. How dare it be a year? It's like, it wasn't the year. It's just a thing at a place. Let's just move on. Let's just do it. Alrighty. Excuse me. All right. Time to get into our feature topic. Today, we are looking at the future of GarageBand. And here's where I need your help. If you're watching here live, or if you're watching on the replay, I need you to help me out. What is, and I'm going to limit it down here. I'm going to make you pick one, because we want to kind of get a bit of a straw poll here of those that are here live. And maybe if you're on the replay, I know that it's easy to create a laundry list of things that you'd like to see changed and you'd like to have in GarageBand in 2022. But what is the one thing? If you could change just one thing, let's just say that you are you're the product manager at Apple, and you're sitting there, and someone comes in and they says, "Okay, we've got the development team. You can change one thing and one thing only for the entire year of 2022 to add one new feature or to change one feature that's existing in GarageBand." What is it? Now, most folks seem to be using GarageBand iOS in this community because that's kind of where I came from as well. So that'll be the focus here. But feel free to talk about Mac as well. It's not that Mac is perfect, but Mac already has a lot of the things that a lot of people have talked about in the past wanting in 2022. And we'll talk about what some of those things are as we continue on. Yes, and the Kmart Smashing Pumpkins shirt, absolutely. And Thomas Christ has the same shirt from Target. And again, the whole you do you thing, I'm like, you know what? Someone at Smashing Pumpkins signed off the fact that they can sell t-shirts for $15 at Kmart and Target. And I'm going to buy one because I'm an old man and that's where we shop. If I walked into one of the cool music stores these days, I probably wouldn't know the names of any of the bands. And that's just the reality of the situation. Alrighty. So yeah, let me know. I'll flag it there. I'll leave the chat there. While I have a quick rant about a few things, I'll wait for you folks that are here live to let me know your thoughts. And then again, if you're on the replay, all you need to do is drop your comment down in the comment section. But before we dive into that, there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, I want to talk about the GarageBand users Facebook group. So if you are not already part of this group, I asked this question, and look at that, we've had 88 comments, 88 miles per hour, 88 comments already there. So if you're not already a member of that, you can get there. I've got a quick shortcut to go there, studiolivetoday.com/GBU, and that will take you over to the GarageBand users Facebook group. Now, I know not everyone's into GarageBand. Hopefully you are if you're watching this show. Not everyone's into Facebook, and if you're not, that's 100% cool. You don't have to be there. But I know folks who have gone over to Facebook just to join some of the cool communities we have there. You don't have to let Auntie Beryl and Uncle Mike know that you're on Facebook so that they'll send you photos and tell you all about their latest procedures. You just need to sign up and you can have a completely private account. These are completely private groups, and that's the reason why I'm not going to go through each of these comments one by one, but I will kind of talk to them and summarize them in just a moment because there's already some great information from folks there. So we'll hear from some of the folks over on the GarageBand users Facebook group in a moment. You can also join the Create, Record, Release group while you're over there. That is the official Facebook group of Studio Live Today, and that one you can get to just by going to createrecordrelease.com. Very simple, very easy to go. So in a moment, I'll be telling you my top 10. So I've got the 10 things. So I get to cheat. I get 10 because, well, it's my show. No, I get 10 to talk through because I've kind of been thinking on this one for a long time. And it's changed over time. There's some things that have come and gone that I've wanted. And I'll show you a bit of a practical demonstration of those in a moment. But for now, Let's see what the folks here have got to say. Reality Art says, on the iPad mini, so I can't you can't app people. Yeah, I know. There you go. There's something that Google need to change about the YouTube mobile app. Being able to at people in the chat on YouTube mobile. The fact that you can't is actually ridiculous. Do YouTube realize that more than 70% of people use mobile for their YouTube viewing experience? I don't think they do. Mark's hit the nail on the head. Auto normalization needs to be killed on iOS and more buses on the Mac. There you go. There's a couple of options for you there. Uploading straight to YouTube used to be great. Yeah, so what happened to that? GarageBand, Apple, you used to be able to export your GarageBand tracks straight to YouTube. And it was a really handy way to just get your stuff out there without having to go through some extra steps. There you go. Hello, Nando Craft. I hope you're doing well. Hello, Ezekiel Bohin. I hope you are doing well. It's been a long time. Well, welcome back. A master function would be good. Yeah, a bit of mastering in your GarageBand iOS. Some auto looping. Steve Ritchie would like to see some looping capability in there. That'd be kind of cool. Patrick Moonbird. Hello, Patrick Moonbird. Like your new album. Was listening to Patrick Moonbird's new album on the weekend. Very chill, very lo-fi, very love it. I want more sound packs. That's it. I've learned how to do everything else with other apps. There you go. So yeah, we just want more sounds in there. Is FL Studio, I don't know, FL Studio is probably good, the old Fruity Loops, but most of us here use GarageBand. VEL says, is there a Logitech any-angle case for the iPad Mini 6 yet? I don't believe so. Those Logitech any-angle cases used to be great, but they don't seem to make them anymore. It's a pain in the butt. They should. They're good. Asa says, I think the MIDI editor should really be made easier to use with VoiceOver on Mac. It's useful, but it isn't possible to use some features. Yeah, make it easier for accessibility and VoiceOver on everything would be good. But again, it is hard. And it's like, it is hard to do this because especially when you've got a group that is only a subset of a group, it's hard. So you've got Apple users, iOS users, people that are using their iPhone and iPad, and then you've got people that are using GarageBand on the iPhone and iPad, and then you've got vision impaired people who are using GarageBand on the iPhone and iPad or the Mac. And yeah, once you get niche down, it's like when I talk to this community and people are like, why do Apple get rid of the headphone jack? Why do Apple make it so hard for us to plug in USB devices? It's because we are the 1% and 2%. We're not the 95 and 98% of people that don't actually care about that stuff. Very important to us, not so much important to others. L'Reality says, I joined the group but haven't been on Facebook yet. Excited though. Get amongst it. It's pretty cool. Joe Glenn, the play and record button should not be so close together. The times I've hit record by mistake. I agree with that, Joe. I hadn't had that on my list. But you're right. It is an absolute pain in the posterior to actually have that. I'm gonna throw my I'll throw my iPad up here so that we can actually talk through some of these, so that we can actually visualize and see what's going on as we go through. So bear with me a moment, and I'll get my iPad up here and plugged in. I'm experimenting. We did have, the reason I was like 1 minute late for those that are here live, the reason I was a minute late is that I was trying to get my reflector working, which is what I use Reflector for, the app that I use to get my iPad screen on the screen of my Mac here so that we can actually show it. And let's just say it took a little while and then it crashed. So good times. So yeah, this is what Joe's talking about, is you got your play button here and your record button. Yeah, the amount of times that I've been coming in here to, to hit playback on a recording, and yet I've hit the record button. I'm like, no, don't record. And then you got to undo, and then you're like, no, don't undo. And yeah, so I concur. I agree with your sentimonies there on that one, Joe. So yeah, it would be good to have those a little bit more separated, because as Dexter from Offspring said, you got to keep it separated. Yeah. To change the metronome without it changing the previous track tempo. Changing the tempo without changing the previous track tempo. That's an interesting one. Oh, so you mean the fact that, yeah, when you change the tempo here, it will change it. Now, with some tracks, you can actually tell it to not do that. If you go to your, God, how long's it been since I've been in here now? Some of your tracks you can actually say, don't do that, your virtual tracks. But yeah, sometimes you're right. If you go in there and you change the tempo, it's going to change the tempo of your virtual tracks. You can actually set them so that they don't, though, which is probably the way that you go there. I'm just going to open up a track that has some other things. Let's open 6 and 8, shall we? we'll play around with that one as we go here. Hello, Clayton von Kluge. Thanks for being here. BandLab is easy to use. Maybe I need to try BandLab in 2022. I still haven't played with BandLab enough. That would be a good thing to do. We'll see if we've got any other options that people are looking for. I would love to be able to drag and drop out of GB to Splash Pro. Yeah. The ability to drag in and drag out of GarageBand would actually be super cool and a really good option. I'm losing my bandwidth here because I'm downloading these tracks now. I realized that was a really bad idea to download large files while I'm streaming, because my MBN here is not really gonna tolerate that too much. Well, it's almost done now, but we'll just wait a moment while that gets fixed up. Rob B says, GarageBand, I'd like to be able to use my guitar and get a good bass guitar emulator. I don't want to buy a bass guitar just to record when there should be a way of getting a good bass sound. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I've tried that before. You can use the pitch plugin, the pitch shift plugin, to do that, but yeah, I also haven't found a way to really sculpt a guitar tone into a bass tone that sounds really good. Apple and Google are fighting over money. Apple and Google are fighting over money. Amazon and eBay are fighting over money. Everyone's fighting over money. On a cassette, you had to push play and record at the same time, so it was difficult to push record. But I agree. I remember those days. Those that remember the tape decks and pressing play and record. Yeah, we get you there. Alphabet, who are Google. Michael Cope, happy New Year to you. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Question: will Apple release GarageBand for CarPlay? Not until the 1st of April, Jade. Then they'll definitely release it. I'll have to dig up the photo I did 2 years ago on the 1st of April, where I had a car display and I had it with GarageBand on there, and it did fool quite a few people, but that's okay. It'll get there one day. That's the weird thing. It'll probably be a thing one day, and then I'll look silly for making fun of it. Same with your watch. There'll be some sort of GarageBand. In fact, do we have voice record on the watch? Yeah, we do. So there is the voice record. I've never used it before. Let's check out the voice recorder on the Apple Watch, shall we? This is my very first Apple Watch recording. Wonder what sort of quality we get there. Let's tap it. This is my very first Apple Watch recording. Okay, I've just increased my productivity about tenfold because I didn't realize that I had the voice recorder there, and for every time that I've woken up in the middle of the night and had an idea in my head, and I've reached for my phone and I've opened the voice recorder and I've found it and I've hit record and I've tried. Yeah, now I'm going to be like Inspector Gadget. Go Gadget voice recorder. Series come up. In fact, I could even do that. I won't say the magic words here because it'll make all of your Apple devices go insane and jump around. So there you go. I had to get an adapter for a new iPad. So yeah, that's one thing. You know, the fact that you have to use the official Apple adapters for the Lightning stuff, and that it can be a little bit picky with some of the stuff it uses. Yeah, that can be a bit of a bummer. You ate the Apple. Nice one. There's some doors where you hit record and then play to record makes accidents less likely. There you go. Does anyone use Reaper? I used to use Reaper. I moved to GarageBand for simplicity because Reaper got too complicated for me, to be honest. But that's just me. I'm a very simple person. That's why I'm struggling even to make the transition into GarageBand Mac and to Logic, because I came over to the world of touchscreens and the world of simplified GarageBand because I didn't really like having to know. Like, Reaper is great. Reaper is powerful. Reaper can do everything. But the problem is it can do everything, and that level of complexity wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Great answer. I don't know which two, but I'll take it. I'll take it there. I guess they will release it that way once it's exactly. When self-driving cars are a thing, can you imagine cruising along in your self-driving car, like playing some hot licks and some fly beats while your car is driving itself along? Question: predictions for new things on GB for 2022. Yes, that's the question that we're asking here at the moment. For anyone that's just joined us, we're looking at your predictions or what you would love to see. It is handy to have a recorder on my wrist. I know I didn't think that there were any apps that were actually useful. I just said when I first installed this watch, I said, yeah, bring everything across. I'll see what's on there later. Never actually look at it. Exactly, March. March, just change your name, March. From old man shouting at clouds to weird guy singing at watch. Oh, you better believe it. And here's the cool thing. In 2022, after doing YouTube for 6 years, I have absolutely no self-respect. Well, no, not no self-respect, but I have no care factor for what other people think of me. Again, as long as I'm not affecting them. If I'm walking down through the parklands and someone else is walking past with their dog and I'm singing into my watch, you better believe that I'll be belting it out, because why not? More power to me. Alrighty. I'll just scroll down and see if we've got anything else going on. All right, cool. Mitch says, I use Reaper because you can do so much more. I just bought a Mac Mini M1 to learn GarageBand. Good stuff, Mitch. Yeah, and I think what you'll find with GarageBand, and this is what I found coming from Reaper to GarageBand. In Reaper, I spent too much time sort of tweaking things, and it was probably my own fault. I didn't spend the time at the start learning how to set up my templates and set up my tracks and set up all my stuff. I would start from a blank canvas every time, and it meant that the first probably hour of creating, I was just kind of pulling together tracks, whereas the first hour of creating in GarageBand, one of the best things about GarageBand is you just set it up, you hit the button, and you go. And I think that's the benefit that I've had from GarageBand over and above something like Reaper, where it was a lot more difficult to get started. All right, would you like to know my top 10? The top 10 things that I would like to see in GarageBand. And these are in no particular order because I kind of just noted them as I went through. But I've got my song. This is my song 6 and 8, by the way. This is a song that I released a couple of years ago, created completely here in GarageBand. And the reason I'm using this one is that it's got in fact, you know what I should do? Before I mess about with it, how about we make a copy of this one? We'll just duplicate it out. There you go. So we use this version. Otherwise, I'll come back and go, what was I doing? Why did I mess up this track? So this is my song 6 and 8. If you haven't heard it before, it sounds like this. So we got everything going on here. We got Darcy on drums, we got some bass there, we got some piano, we got some clarinet even, and we got some acoustic guitars, and a bunch of vocals and backing vocals and everything else in between. So it's got everything in here. I thought this would be a good one to show. So my number one thing that I want to see in 2022 is the ability to name our sections, and that would be super cool, because if you know GarageBand iOS here, if you go here to the sections, hit the plus button, you've got section A, B, and you can see here I've shifted sections around to create different things here. And if I could just name this lead in, intro, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, out. Like, why? Well, that seems like an absolute no-brainer. You've even got an edit button here, which makes you look like you should be able to change them, except you can't. So being able to change your section names. And the weird thing is that you kind of can do it. So GarageBand Mac uses regions, which are different to sections and work in a different way. So that will sort of allude to something I'm going to talk about in a little moment as well, around some compatibility stuff. All right. Number 2, and again, these aren't in any order because this is probably the one that would be the number 1 for me, and that is to have a master track. So if you've used GarageBand on your Mac before, you'll know that you've got all of your individual tracks, but then you've also got at the bottom a master track where all of those tracks all come together into one, and you can add effects on that master bus, you can EQ that master bus, you can do automation, you can do everything you can on the master bus that you can do on all the other tracks. It seems like it would be a pretty simple thing to do. It's not here in GarageBand iOS at the moment, but that's something that I would like to see in the future. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and talk about auto-normalization. So what do I mean when I'm talking auto-normalization? So here in GarageBand, if you come in here and you select a track and you share it like this, and we share it as a song in an uncompressed WAV file, in every other DAW in the world, pretty much, we'll just do an open in here and we'll put it into audio share. In every other DAW, it will export at whatever the overall level that you have on your master track is. Now, because GarageBand iOS has no master track, it does something funky, which is auto-normalization. Now, at best, auto-normalization takes the overall volume of your track from whatever it would be, maybe it was at -12 or -6 or -4, whatever, and it brings it up to 0. So that's not the worst thing in the world, because when you master, you can just bring your input gain down and then you can add your mastering. Because when you're mastering something, if you're adding to it, you may need some headroom or some overhead to add your mastering plugins into. However, here in GarageBand, because we export it and it exports it up to 0 dB, we don't have that headroom. At worst, because you can't control your master volume, if it's over and above, and I don't know why I picked such a long song, it's taking a long time to export here. If you've got tracks that are actually going over 0 dB, it's actually going to add some limiting to those tracks. There you go, it's open. So we'll throw this into audio share, and I'll show you what we mean. So look at this. This is what I'm talking about here. So for this particular track, see these peaks? See how these peaks are going all the way up to the top? Now, this is not what we want. We would probably want this to look more like this. See, because this song has this quiet section here where it does this. Where older time is moving on. And so the problem here is that we don't have a lot of headroom to actually use here. Now, because I know a few little tricks around this, and I usually turn my volume down by using a bit of a hack here on the master track, which you can kind of do by adding an FX track. Do I have one on here? I do. You can add an FX track here, and you can go to your visual EQ. And I can actually turn that down. So it's not turned down at the moment, but if I was finding that my peaks were too high, I could actually turn that down, and that will just give a little bit more dynamic range. But the bottom line is, can we please just have a simple button? All I want for Christmas is the ability to click this button and then to go into these advanced settings and have auto normalization and click it off. Leave it on for people that need it, because some folks may want to continue to have auto normalization, but give us the ability to turn it off. There, I've said it. It's said. All right. The ability to record in track view. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you've ever tried to record vocals in particular or guitars, let's just say I'm recording this vocal track here. We'll say it's not recorded yet. And I want to record, but I want to watch the guitars so that I can see the changes or be able to watch the sections here. So see how I've got my different sections up the top here for my verse and for my chorus and for other things along here. What if I wanted to actually watch them while I record? Well, here's the problem. As soon as I hit record, look what happens. I'm over here. What am I doing over here? I can't see anything. I can see my section thing up the top, but I can't see my drums. I can't see my guitars. I can't see anything up there. So if we undo that, what you can do, there is a workaround for this, and you can see that I've probably used this workaround with this one. But if you've got a 2-channel interface, you can set it up. Actually, no, that one's saying it's the same channel. You can set it up so you've got your other one on your second channel. So because I'm using a 2-channel interface, I can say that one's actually channel 2, and then come back to my track view here, and we can set those ones up. And now when I want to go and record, it's going to keep me on my track view. Yeah? Right? So that's super handy. But why can't we just have that? Because people that have a single channel interface, if you're using an iRig or if you're just using the built-in microphone, you can't do it. And look, there's absolutely no reason why it can't stay on this view and just record in the background, because it can do it when you're doing 2 tracks. So again, just a little button in here that says record in microphone view or record in icon view or track view. Just a simple setting that you flick between there, and then those people like me that are pedantic that want the track view recording, we can have it turned on. That would be super duper cool. I'm going to pause here because we're 4 in, and say, if you're having fun and you're liking this, hit the like button. But I also want to say, I don't necessarily want GarageBand to be completely redeveloped and redesigned from the ground up, because it's its limitations that kind of make it powerful. And I'd be an absolute hypocrite, because I've said in the past, I've come over from other DAWs to GarageBand because of the simplicity. So keep that in mind. Take it with a grain of salt when I'm going through all these. All right, we need more plug-in slots for our virtual guitars. This one is baffling, because if we use an audio recorder track here and we go to our plugins and EQ, tap there, look at this. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots. And if we hit the edit there, look, we got 2 more. So you've got your noise gate, you've got your visual EQ, and you've got 5 individual slots there, including 4 customizable slots that we can put any plugin or audio unit V3 extension that we want to put on there. Here's the problem. As soon as you want to use, this is why it's a bit wacky. If with GarageBand, if you want to use the actual GarageBand amp sims instead, and you come in here and select an amp, look how many slots we now get. We'll come over here. Hello, we get 1. So you go from 4 customizable slots to 1 customizable slot because you're using all these other things in here. Now, this is why for me, I've moved away a little bit from the GarageBand amp sims, because if I just use a regular audio recorder track like this and add an AUV3 amp sim, something like Tone Bridge, so if we just get rid of that and we go here and we bring in the Tone Bridge amp, I can use the ToneBridge amp and then a bunch of other plugins as well. I can put ToneBridge on there, and then I can get rid of these things, and I can add ToneBridge and a bunch of effects to this one track if I use an audio recorder track. So it's driving me away from using GarageBand's built-in amp sims, because for an arbitrary reason that's probably from the old days, it was probably just when they first set it up, they thought, no one will want to add any more AU plugins or anything else if they've got all of these powerful pedals and amps and controls over there. But it's just a little bit wacky that we've only got the ability to add one additional plugin slot to our guitar amp sims. So more of those would be good. All right, let's talk MIDI, because there's a couple of MIDI things that I want to talk about here. One of these came up, and I hadn't thought about it for a while, but it's pretty important, and that is the ability to map your MIDI keyboard would be kind of cool. And this is one that's going to cross over from iOS and Mac, because it's not really done well on either of them. So when you're playing a MIDI instrument, I don't have a MIDI keyboard plugged in right now, but if you're playing on your touch screen here, that's all cool. The problem is, if you are using an external MIDI keyboard, you can't actually change anything. So for instance, what some MIDI keyboards do is on the hardware side, they can let you change, like Arturia key steps and keylabs and things do this really well. They'll let you change on the hardware side. So if you wanted to play in like B major, you could just make it go up a tone and you can play it in a C major. But what a lot of DAWs, so someone mentioned Reaper before, what a lot of other DAWs like Reaper do is they let you change all that on the software side. So you can do things like transpose your keyboard, you can change the different keys of what they do, and even things like playing drums with your MIDI keyboard, you can assign them. You can use custom assignments to be able to assign different pads. And again, maybe this is next level, maybe this is not what GarageBand's all about, but even some basic transposition. So you could just say, point it to your MIDI keyboard and say, hey, I don't really want to play in B flat major. I want to play in C major because I don't like them black notes. Let's transpose that sucker up one tone. That would be kind of cool. So that's it. We are going through the top 10 things I would love to see in GarageBand in 2022 or in the future. And the next one is related to MIDI. If you know about GarageBand, you will know that you can now import MIDI. So you can actually come up here, and if you've got a MIDI file, do I have a MIDI file anywhere here? I don't think I've imported one lately. But if you've got a MIDI file, you can grab it and you can drag it in, and it's going to import all of your MIDI tracks. I've got videos here on the channel that have showed how to do that before. You know what you can't do with GarageBand is export your MIDI. So for this one, I've created this lovely grand piano track here in my songs 6 and 8. It sounds like this. If I want to get this out of GarageBand, I've only got one option, and that is to export it as an audio file. It's in there as data. You can see there I've played it on my keyboard all the way through. The same with this oboe sound, clarinet sound. If I wanted to get these sounds to come through, there is no export MIDI option in GarageBand. So that is another thing that would be super cool, the ability to export that MIDI. And then if you were using a hybrid setup, you're using Reaper, or you wanted to share it, this is the number one thing I hear from folks is, hey, I'm collaborating with someone and I want to send them my tracks, and they've asked for the MIDI. And I say, well, you're going to have to tell them that they're SOL, which, as we know, means sort of out of luck. Speaking of compatibility, the compatibility between iOS and Mac, we talked about it with the sections. It is not quite there yet. It has come a long way. So you may be aware that in 2021, a lot of things were added. So for instance, here in GarageBand iOS, we got the new Brush Drummers pack, which is one that had been in GarageBand on Mac for a very long time. I can't go to my drummers, I've already got 2 added. So you've got the new Brush Drummers for your drum kits here in GarageBand. We also got all of the new sound packs. So if we come over here to your sound library, the new sound packs that we got in here, all of the artist and producer packs, the Mark Ronson, the Tom Misch, the Mark Lettieri, all of those ones, they're all in there. And they were actually then added into Mac, because the problem was they all got added in here to iOS, and then when people shared their iOS projects to Mac, they didn't work anymore. And that was no good. So that was pretty cool to see. So we've now got the alignment of all the sound packs and the majority of the sounds, but we still don't have alignment with a lot of things. So obviously the biggest challenge is AUV3 plugins that we have on iOS versus Audio Unit or AU plugins on Mac. Now the way to get around this at the moment is to export as stems. I've got videos on that here on the channel. If you search my name, Pete John Stems, it'll show you how to stem out of GarageBand iOS so you can import it into GarageBand Mac or Reaper or Pro Tools or whatever platform you're using. So that's kind of the only real way, because what that'll do is bake in any of those effects and make it able for you to share. But what we don't have is the ability for any more levels of sharing between iOS and Mac. And again, I think we're getting there. I think we're on the right track. But those of us that have an iPad Pro, or that we're considering, hey, now that there's M1 on the Mac and that there's M1 on the iPad Pro, surely we will have cross compatibility and we can use Logic on our iPad. The old adage of Logic. I'm not even going to talk about Logic on the iPad, but Logic on the iPad. That's something that I don't think is coming anytime soon, but having better compatibility is definitely something I would love to see. Number 9. So I've showed a bunch of tips lately for how to copy between your drums, your keys, and string tracks. So unfortunately, if you were, say, you've got these piano sound and you're like, oh, I really like this piano bit here, but I'd really love to hear what this sounds like on this string track. Yeah, guess what? We can't do it. Now, you can do it, and there's a workaround for it. And again, if you search Pete John strings to keys or keys to strings, I'll link it down in the description, then you'll be able to find that. But for the time being, we can't do it. The fact that there's a hack and a workaround that lets you do it means that it's sitting there in behind. So this is one that I think could be pretty simple, which is let's just open up the ability to copy between a string track and a keys track, or a keys track and a drum track. I think, and I'm only just guessing here, but I think this is one of those ones where Apple say, we don't want people to do this and it sound bad and it cause problems and maybe it corrupts the track or it does something. So we're just going to completely block it entirely. So it's like we want to protect them from themselves, which I get for your average user. But if you're a power user, just stick it in here, have advanced settings and go copy between. Like, I would just love to see, I don't want to see this become super cluttered, but I would love to see a bunch of advanced settings in here. Enable master track, disable auto normalization, and copy between string and keys tracks, or copy between different MIDI types. That's all I'd really want, and I'd be a very happy chappy. So that's something else to consider. And number 10, and again, these aren't in any particular order, but automation. So automation here in GarageBand iOS. In GarageBand on Mac, you've got automation of all of your different types. So you've got automation of your EQ and your effects and your AUV3s and anything you want. Here in GarageBand, we got automation of volume. So if I come in here to my my vocal track, told me, son, you'd better and I want to automate it, I can do that. While you've got the chance, I can turn on the automation, and I can automate the volume up and down in different sections. I can add in additional points, and we can actually automate our volume up and down. Well, it doesn't. There you go. And hang out with the boys. But what we can't do is automate effects. We can't automate EQ. We can't automate any of our other attributes. So the ability to have, just like we have in Mac, a little thing here saying, here's the effect that you have, and which would you like to actually automate? Now, again, is that going to make it really complicated? Because you've got to remember, with all this stuff, this has got to be cross-compatible with the iPhone as well, because GarageBand and Apple don't like making changes on the iPad that can't be at least replicated in some way on the iPhone. And I get it. If you were using a little 4.7-inch touchscreen on an iPhone, can you have multiple layers of automation on there and it actually makes sense? Probably not. So I get it why we can't do it, but it doesn't mean we can't hope. It doesn't mean we can't wish and hope and pray that we get something like that one of these days. So there you have it. They are the 10 things that I would like to see in GarageBand, maybe iOS, but a little bit Mac as well in 2022. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are and what you think should be added. And if you're here live, let me know right now if you missed out. Tempo track needed in GarageBand iOS. Most iOS stores are missing this feature. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing. I know that a lot of people will say, well, Auria Pro, Cubases, these things have tempo tracks and multiple time signatures. And I didn't even get into tempo changes and time signatures. I think that's kind of outside of what may actually happen. So we'll see. Quick drink there, and so I've probably missed a bunch of comments. So I'm gonna scroll back up here to around about the point where I started ranting about things, and I'll see if there's missed anything. Leela says, I just learned about the pedal board in Mac. Might feel as good about the tone bridge. There you go. I'm glad I can listen back at a slower speed because Pete must have had his coffee. I'm actually a little bit amped up. I have had my coffee. Look, there's my coffee in my mug. I am a little bit amped up, and I do need to focus on that because about a year ago, I reached the point where I was right at the right volume and pitch, and then unfortunately, I get a little bit excited. And when I get excited about things and passionate, I get really, really amped up. So I will try to drop it down. A good MIDI keyboard can indeed go a long way, for sure. GarageBand isn't free. That's a really good point. Someone mentioned that to me the other day when I said, I said GarageBand. They made a complaint about GarageBand, and I said, well, you know, for the $0 and 0 cents and £0 you pay, it's still pretty good. And they said, well, actually. Any response that starts with "well, actually," it's like "look." Whenever a question response is "look," it's like "oh, I'm in trouble." But "well, actually," I had to pay $1,000 for my iPad, so therefore it was not free. Okay, yes, okay. I should start saying it is a bundled product. It's included product. But yeah, you're spot on correct. You're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct. Luriality says, I want to do as much as possible in GarageBand, even though I'm some of the other doors, because GarageBand's in her face and soothing. It is soothing, isn't it? It is nice and soothing using GarageBand. Guido says, as a keyboard player, I would like to have more options to play the guitar on my keyboard, like different riffing pattern. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Different sort of automation, a bit like the key step, sort of some of that stuff built in that you get in some of those higher end keyboards. It would be nice to be able to record multiple versions of a track in a region without having to start and stop recording. Let's loop it, Apple. Yeah, it's almost like what I'd love to see is a bit of an extension on the multi-take recording that they have. So you might be aware that Apple actually do have multi-take recording here. So if we come into just a random track here, if you go into the options here and you go to track settings and recording, you can turn multi-take on. And what multi-take does is you record, let's just record a fake take. La 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 la. So you can record that, and then you can actually go back in and record over the top of that one. And instead of it going completely over the top and losing that first recording, with multi-take on, if we record again, I'm just recording nothing, but just to show you how it works. If you record in again, see how you've now got that little 2 marker there? And you can actually switch between those recordings. To be very honest, it's super clunky, and I virtually never use it. So you can come in here, you can go to takes, and you can choose either take 1 or take 2, and then you can delete your unused takes. I tend to just duplicate out a track and record take 1 and take 2, and then use it that way. But yeah, being able to do actual proper looping in here might be cool. But hey, there's a bunch of looping apps that are happening these days. Loopy Pro that I think Jade and other folks have been looking at lately. I haven't been, but I probably need to. It's just outside of my wheelhouse at the moment, but maybe 2022 is the time that I should get loopy. Everyone get loopy in 2022. We'll scroll on down. A guitar sound pack would be cool. No more authentic guitars. New, more authentic guitar sounds for keyboard. Yeah. And you notice I didn't pick on the guitar either. So in previous ones of these, I tried to go a little bit left field with some of these that I put in here this time. But in the past, I've definitely talked about the guitar and the fact that we have had the same guitar virtual sound here in GarageBand forever. Like, I've been using this for 6 years now, and they've added the Roots Rock guitar, and that is it. That is the only change that we've had in this entire time. Actually, the retro wah. So we used to have the acoustic, the classic clean, and the hard rock. They added the retro wah. Actually, the Roots Rock was there before, I think, but they added the retro wah, which has the wah pedal, which is like... which is a little bit of something different at least. But again, what do the guitars sound like? Well, they sound like MIDI guitars from the late 90s, because that's exactly what they are, and they haven't changed. So I think they've realized that a lot of people, that if you are using GarageBand and you're using guitars, you're probably using real guitars. There's probably not as much of a market for virtual guitars as they think, but then again, maybe there is. And in fact, that's what I'm going to show you. I've got a couple of tips for you in a moment to finish off the show. So one of the things I'm going to ask for your help because if you're as passionate about this stuff as I clearly am, based on how fast I talk about it, then you may want to help out and do some things. A question from Sion. Hello, Sion. If you could export MIDI for free, but it requires you to update to 15.2, would you do that? I'm already updated to iOS 15.2, my friend. I don't use anything that really had any problems with iOS 15.2, so I'm already updated to 15.2. So, yeah, short answer is yes to that one, because I've already got me some 15.2 going on. Asa says a lot of synth presets are now on the Mac, which is very, very cool. Let's see. We'll just see if we've got any others. Mike and Dawn Janice says, I did record a song in GarageBand, then went to YouTube, learned how to transfer to Reaper, where my husband added bass, guitar, and mixed it. Effects I don't believe are not transferable. Yeah, so what you need to do, you need to make a choice there. If you're going from one DAW to another, and it's a good point to make, you need to decide, am I going to bake in effects and then mix it with those effects in the other DAW? So let's say that you're creating GarageBand. We'll go back over to here. Let's say I've created this track in here in GarageBand. If I've got, say, this bass part here sounding like this, and this bass actually already has like a noise gate, and it already has some EQ on there. Actually doesn't really have much of anything on there. Bad example, but it's obviously got the bass sound here. Now what I could do is I can either export this by just grabbing it and dragging it over onto just a regular audio track so that it's got no effects and no processing on it, and then add all the effects in wherever I'm sending it to. Or if I export the track from here, it'll have everything baked in. Same with things like vocals. Vocals would have been a better example, except I've messed around with them now as well. So the vocals here. And hang out with the boys and start some trouble. So all of those effects, all that echo, all that reverb, all these other plugins and EQ that I've got on that vocal, if I export it like that, it'll bake all those in. If I remove all of those, then what I'll need to do is add effects in to wherever I'm sending it to. So that's my tip on that one. If you're export, you kind of just need to decide, am I going to mix it here and then send it over there and then add the stuff, or am I going to send all the raw tracks without any of that processing baked in and then do all the mixing and processing over there? Excuse me. As Mark said, Peter set up, yes, so there is a Facebook group called Create, Record, Release, where you can ask questions and share your music with other artists. Absolutely. So we we do a show called Your Music Live once a week here, where we showcase your music, and that's kind of like your finished products. That's where you're like, hey, I made a song, here it is, it's great, I'd like to share it, I'd like to get feedback, I'd like to have folks come and listen to my music, because, hey, that's what we want. And it's not a like for like, it's not a sub for sub, it's not a let's grow together community, because I really don't like those. I won't rant about it today, but you've heard me rant about it before if you've been around. It is not the right way to grow your channel. It's not the right way to grow your music, because you do not want people who are not going to listen to your music subscribing to your channel and following you on various places. But Create, Record, Release is not about that. Create, Record, Release is about helping other people out. It's about getting the help you need. It's about sharing those, ideas that you have of the tracks, the rough edits of your tracks, and then people will come in and say, hey, that's great. Maybe you need to compress that vocal a bit more. Those drums are a bit overpowering. Maybe turn those down. Your clipping in the chorus, you might need to reduce your distortion in there. So things like that that folks can really help out with. And I dig it. All right, let's scroll on down, and if I've missed anything, I apologize, because there's lots of great interaction going on here. Hello, Russ8889, I hope you are well, my friend. We'll keep going. I'll just see if there's any other questions before we continue on. Riffer, yeah, Riffer is a good app. A loopy amateur, yeah, I'm very loopy. I'm very loopy in some ways, but I'm very amateur in many other ways. Gilmore guitar would be lovely. Yeah, a bit of Gilmore guitar sound would be awesome. Cool. I think I've nearly caught up with the chat. If I've missed anything, if you do have a question, as we say, we'll have a little bit of time. Just do exactly what Mike and Dawn have done here. Put question in front. Do you have a database that can be searched so we know which of your videos to listen for GarageBand tutorials? Sort of. So let me help you out with this one, because and then we'll go into the next section. So there's a couple of options that you have right at the start. You may have missed the very start of the show, but the first place I would recommend for you, Dawn and Mike, is this one here. So this is my GarageBand iOS FAQ. So this has everything about, so this is studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand, and this is everything that you need to know. So you've got my beginner's guide up there. You've got starting out with GarageBand. The one that I would go to that covers most things is this playlist, GarageBand iOS Essentials. So if we just open that one, that will bring you into this one, which is 35 videos that are like, if I sat you down, I needed to show you about 20 hours of stuff that would help you learn GarageBand over like a week's period, this is what it would be. So this is hand-picked 35 videos from the last sort of 6 years that show the basics of GarageBand. But there's also, down in here, there's an FAQ. So if you, depending what browser you're using, you can actually use the find function here. And if you were like, oh, I want to learn about automation, you can type that in, and each topic here has the question. It then has a simple answer. So if you don't want to go watch the video, it'll say tap on the track icon, not on the audio wave, and select automation. And then there's a bunch of videos. So you can go to my full automation playlist, my automation for volume, automating effects, and panning automation. So what we talked about before was automating effects. And if you wanted that one, if you just click on that, it'll open up that video, and then it'll put you right into the spot of that video where I talk about automating effects. So it's the one-stop shop for everything that you'll need GarageBand related. So that's at studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. So if you bookmark that one, if you have that in your kit, that will have pretty much everything that you need to know. And you can see here I've gone into quite a bit of detail. That's only the A's, and then we've got like background mode, bars, compatibility, compression, delays, downloading, echo, EQ, FX, guitar. So there's everything that I've learned is all in here, and it's being constantly updated as well. So studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand is where you can go, and should have all of the links out from there. Reality says, I would like a feature that transfers the ability to play guitar into my brain. Like the Matrix thing, where you just go, I know Jinjitsu. And then you just like, I know I can shred on guitar. Like that. Do you like my Keanu? Alrighty, but I'm just going to continue scrolling down and stop doing impersonations. All right, I think we have caught up, so thank you all for that. So we've got a couple of things left here on the show that I wanted to talk to. We might actually have to shelve the plugin or app of the week, or should we just do it real quick? I'll show it to you really quick because it's something that I was playing around with that's new to Garage. I'll do a proper video on this one in the next week because I mentioned it really briefly before. But if you're a GarageBand iOS user and you're looking to change the pitch of things, so you want to control your pitch, it's Kung Fu, isn't it? Sorry, I know Kung Fu. It's not Jinjitsu. So, but if you want to control the pitch here in GarageBand, you can actually go in and use the built-in Apple plugin. So let's just get rid of this effect EQ. And in fact, let's turn off the automation for this because that's going to annoy me. So if you want to turn off automation, by the way, just get rid of that. Boop. Oh, I ticked it twice. There we go. So automation is off. So we'll come in here, we'll go to this one, and we'll go to plugins and EQ. We'll get rid of that, and we'll hit this. So here in audio unit extensions, I've showed these recently, but Apple have actually updated all of these suckers down the bottom here. See how they used to have that gross looking orange one? Now they've got this nice Apple logo. And there's one here that has been on the Mac version forever, but has only just been added. So we've always had new pitch. So this new pitch plugin is pretty clunky. You can change a few settings here. You can change this up and down by cents. You can't put in exactly how many cents you want. It's really clunky to use. And if we play it here, oh, is that going to play the audio? There we go. We can turn the pitch up. Well, you've got the church and have the talent. There we go. Good stuff, yeah. We'll turn that volume up so we can hear it. So that's the AU new pitch plugin is pretty clunky. And for a long time, we're like, why do we not have the actual proper pitch plugin that we have on the Mac? Because we've only got this new pitch plugin. Well, now we have it. They kind of just snuck it in there. But here's the problem. It's got the cruddiest interface. So it's almost impossible to work out how to use with this one. But the ones that you really need to focus in on here is your smoothness and your tightness. And the amount of the effect blend and the pitch, because these are the 4 sliders that you get. All this other stuff, you don't even get this on the Mac version. So this is all like the back-end algorithm stuff that you don't even get to see on the Mac version. But here on the iOS version, you get this stuff here. So here, you can actually adjust the number of cents. So you can go up and down. Here's the other problem, though. It still doesn't have the ability for you to dial this in like an actual number. So you can't click on this, you can't actually select it, and I've lost it's so bad, I've lost my ability to play because I've lost my screen. I'm not going to bring it back because that's usually when things crash, but I'll just play with this pitch, and if we hit play.
So she dragged me away,
all the while trying to say.
But what you have on here, and you can't see it now, but you have a smoothness control and you have a tightness control. So if you're ever looking to change your pitch, it's still not perfect, but it is better. So if you want to adjust your pitch in GarageBand iOS, use the pitch plugin as opposed to the new pitch plugin. And I'll do a video on that in the future as well. Alrighty. We've got a quick question. How do I make the keys on the keyboard bigger if I'm using GarageBand iPhone? Unfortunately, you can't. The keyboard control is only on GarageBand iPad. It's not on GarageBand iPhone. So if you've got an iPad, you can do the double keyboard thing and you can change the width of the keys. On iPhone, unfortunately, you're stuck with whatever the default settings are. So I apologize for that, but it's the way it is. All right, I'm going to finish off here because we've got the one. Actually, I've got 2 tips of the week. We're going to go with 2 tips of the week this week, just to finish off to kick off the new year right. And number 1, I wanted to put this out there, is that if you, I've lost my link. When I had the great crash of 2022 before we started here, I've lost this. Hold on, just speak amongst yourself for a moment. All right, the first tip that I wanted to give you here today is please, let's start off 2022 right. Can everyone please make sure you have a backup plan for your files? I would love 2022 to be the year where I get very few emails from people and messages from people and posts from people frantically freaking out because they don't have their projects backed up. Now, there's a bunch of different ways to do it. I've got videos here on the channel that can help you out with that. In fact, if you go to your YouTube search engines, this is the other way to find stuff for me. Just search my name, Pete Johns, GarageBand Backup. And I've got a whole video there. Are your songs safe? How to back up. I've got 2 of them, in fact. I've got one from a year ago, one from 9 months ago. They cover slightly different things and into more detail. That's more detailed, 18 minutes, and that's a 10-minute kind of crash course. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. The way that I reckon, the easiest way, if you've got a little bit of extra coin that you want to invest in your recordings this year, before you go out and buy all the new fancy apps, I would actually upgrade your iCloud storage. Because as you may know, when you get an iPhone or an iPad, you get 5 gigabytes of iCloud storage. Now, that's not enough storage to store like more than about 3 or 4 projects really these days. So I don't think that that's really that useful. So what I would recommend, and yes, it's going to cost you money, and I know I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and all that stuff, but you can actually upgrade to iCloud Plus. So you can get 50 gigabytes, 200 gigabytes, or if like me, you just want everything backed up for every device you have and all of your family stuff, get the 2 terabyte storage plan. Yes, it does cost you stuff. If you come down to here, it'll have all the price. Oh, it doesn't have the prices. There was another one that had the prices of these. Here you go. Find out about the pricing. There we go. So it's got all the pricing for the different places in the world. So in Canada, you're going to pay $129, $3.99, or $12.99 a month. In the US, it's 99 cents, $2.99, and $9.99. If you go to places like Australia, we pay out the beehole. So we're $149, $4.49, and $14.99. So yes, I do spend $15 a month to get iCloud, to get 2 terabytes. And if like Leela, you've been resisting the 2 terabytes, it might be time to consider it. You don't have to do it. The other options that you have, and you can check those backup videos, is that you can use a USB drive. You can flick it off using Audio Share and the Wi-Fi drive. You can use Google Drive or Dropbox or OneDrive. There's a bunch of different ways you can go. Make sure, I would highly recommend, definitely in iOS, but even in Mac, zip up your projects. So zip up your projects either individually or into one big zip file before you transfer them. Every file system in the world, pretty much apart from Mac and iOS, doesn't support GarageBand.band projects. So if you want to do it that way, do it that way. But for the love of your deity of choice, please do something. Don't just continue on living on the edge going, she'll be right. Because guess what? She won't be right. And when she's not right and you're crying into your cornflakes because you've lost your latest project and you've lost 6 months of work, yeah, I'm going to just have to point you to this video and say, I told you so. Really? Because we've all been there. And look, accidents happen. But as I tell my children, there's accidents and there's accidents. So when they're like spinning around in the lounge room at the fastest they possibly can, and then they whack their hand on the wall, and they're like, I hurt my hand. I had an accident. I'm like, no, you didn't. You were being negligent, and therefore you have the consequences of your negligence. Whereas if they were just minding their own business and a tree branch falls on your car, yeah, that's an accident. That is unforeseeable. You know what's not unforeseeable? That at some stage, GarageBand will crash, your hard drive will crash, your iPhone will go for a swim in the toilet, and you will lose your projects. So please, 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 if you do nothing else that I say, if you do nothing else that I've requested of you, find a way to back up your projects, because I do not want to get those sad emails and those sad messages that I've got. The final thing, and this is, we're going to do this. We are running overtime because we always are. And I've put a link. You would have noticed that there's been a link throughout the whole show if you're watching live, or it's down in the description if you're not watching live. And that is to the Apple feedback form. Yeah, guess what? You know how we talked about all the things we wish Apple would do and all the features we would love to see in GarageBand? Guess what? We can actually let our fingers do the talking. Instead of just complaining about it, we can actually tell Apple. And yes, you can say, I bet they won't do it anyway. But you know what? You won't know if you don't ask. And, you know, we got 50 people watching this live now and probably several hundred that are going to watch the replay. And even if only like 10 or 15% of us all go over to here, go over to the product feedback and actually submit some feedback, some feature requests. Throw all those feature requests that have been burning on your mind for a long time, throw them out there. Because, yeah, one person asking one thing once, probably not going to do anything. If every single one of us goes in there and says, hey, we really want you to put in a way to turn off auto normalization in GarageBand iOS, maybe it could happen. So I'm going to show you. We're going to do one here live to finish off the show. So here it is. It's the feedback. It's just apple.com/feedback. You can give feedback on the products. If you want to say iPhone, bring back the headphone jack, for goodness sake, you can do that. If you want to say MacBook Pro, please make your USB mouse support actually work. Here's a weird thing. I'm using, see what I have here? This is a USB extension cord. I have to use this. I'll come over here for a sec. I have to use this because, see, that's my dongle for my mouse and my keyboard. I have to have that so close to my mouse and keyboard because any other device in between, there's something wrong with the way that the new Macs actually send their mouse and keyboard signal. I've never had this. I've had the cheapest of PCs and they can function, 3 meters away from the laptop. But for whatever reason, Apple's M1 in particular, it doesn't work. Anyway, that's an aside. But what we want to do here, we want to come down here to iOS and iPad apps. We want to click on GarageBand. And guess what? We're going to get ourselves a little form here. So we're going to, I'll fill this in offline actually, because it does that auto thing where like you start typing and it will give like all of your details in there. And it's probably not something that I really want to do. So I'll just pre-fill this in. So I'm going to write my name. I'm going to write my email address, which is studiolivetoday.com. And I reckon the rest of it will be safe to fill in. So, subject. What should we make on the subject? Let's see. Subject is required. So we've got GarageBand, iOS, auto normalization, ability to turn off. Feedback type, we're going to do a feature request. I should actually put it as a bug report. The bug is you can't turn off auto normalization. We'll do feature request. Should we zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on here? There we go. That's better. Feature request. And then on your comments, doesn't have to be particularly big. Just say GarageBand Mac has the ability to turn off auto normalization when exporting. GarageBand iOS should also have this feature to enable exports that are not at maximum volume to allow for mastering. Simple. All right, which version of GarageBand? Whew, all of them. This is where it gets a bit weird because they don't even have 2.3.12 in there. So Maybe I need to put a bug afterwards saying, please add 2.3.12 to your bug form. There's a bug in itself. What operating system are you running? Again, we don't even have 15.2, so they haven't quite updated that. Which device are you using? I'm using all of them, but we'll just go iPad Pro 11-inch. Second gen am I using? No, first gen. What do you primarily use GarageBand for? Oh, look at all this. What do I use it for? Music education. There you go. Do you play a musical instrument? So now they're just collecting other stuff about me that I didn't need to know. What's your age? Shall we put it in here? Yep, 39 to 49. Experience level. Pro. I create music for a living. I do. What other things do I do? Logic Pro or Express. What's Logic Express? I don't even know what that is. Yep, that GarageBand for Mac. They've got all sorts of things. Looptastic, Amplitude. They probably need to update these. Look, they've got Music Studio, Nano Studio, Magic Piano. I don't think they've updated this for a while, just quietly. What are the following do you need the most? Oh, look at this. Which of the following do you need the most? We don't need any of them. We need more guitar sounds. There you go. I love this last one. None. GarageBand for iOS and iPad OS is perfect. Who's ever going to select that? All right, so now all we need to do is submit the feedback. And boom, there you go. It is done. Thank you for your feedback. We cannot respond to you personally, but please know your message is received and reviewed by the GarageBand team. So there you go, GarageBand team at Apple. What will this do? We don't know. But again, if it's not worth complaining. It's a bit like people that say, oh man, don't you hate the dude that's in, don't you hate the guy that's in the White House at the moment? And you're like, yeah, really? Who'd you vote for? Oh, I don't vote. It's like the same sort of thing. It's like, if you're not willing to have your say, if you're not willing to actually provide feedback, then you kind of lose your right to complain. So get amongst it. It is down there in the description. You can go over to that form. And yeah, look, it takes a little while to fill that one out, but get it in there. And the more people that provide this sort of feedback through to Apple, then the more likely we are to get some resolution there. One final thing I'll say too is if you want to learn more about the sort of stuff that people want to see, and you want a bit more of an entertaining view of that, jump over here. It's our man Patrick from the GarageBand Guide, and he's got a great video there, which is Dear Apple, where are these GarageBand iOS features, right? So yes, he also advocates for putting your mouth where your mouth is. No? Putting your feedback where your mouth is, something like that. All right, thank you all for hanging out here today. I hope you enjoyed getting this stuff off your chests. And once again, if you're watching on the replay, don't worry, we love you just as much. You can leave your comments downstairs in the comments section there. I'll be there answering any of them. And if there's anything you think of, if you're here live even, and you're like, oh, I meant to say this, then you can jump over there. Don't forget as well that you can go to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand for all of your GarageBand needs, including the GarageBand Beginner's Guide, and all of my FAQs are over there. That's going to do it. Bye for now, folks. I'll see you on next week's GarageBand Weekly. Bye for now.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Oh yeah.
Need an answer to